Scope is a big collaboration point for PMs and BAs. I can't stress this enough. What most teams don't realize is what scope actually means. Teams often focus on the project scope and not enough on the product scope. We have an intuitive idea from experience, and there are also ways to think about scope that can help us work together to make scope more clear to manage. Pat the PM and Bailey the BA think about scope in 5 ways: project scope, product scope, and functional scope, technical scope, and organizational scope. They have learned that a lot of teams are focused on the project and technical scope and mistakenly neglecting the product and functional scope. The project scope, which includes the work to be done and resources to do it, the tasks, the people, and organizations performing the activities to complete the project. Pat is focused on this scope, and Bailey provides inputs from other scope areas that help Pat with that project scope. Next, the product scope, which is what the project builds and can be looked at from a functional and technical point of view. Bailey is focused on the functional scope, what features, goals, and functions the product, service, or system will provide by the end of the project. And the technical scope is about what technologies are impacted. Pat and Bailey work together on this with a technical lead. The functional scope is where Bailey provides a leadership role as input to Pat managing scope overall as a whole. The functional scope provides critical input to the other scope areas Pat needs, and Bailey analyzes, defines, and communicates this to create a shared understanding. Missing functional scope impacts schedule, resources, and budget. Pat and Bailey are tied together in this area to ensure a smooth scope understanding and decision-making. The organizational scope is another area of scope that Pat and Bailey collaborate on, as it involves understanding what locations, units, and groups of the organization are impacted. Another big scope concept is scope creep, and at times it's Pat's biggest fear. Scope creep is when scope is added to the deliverables, plans, or promised to stakeholders without truly planning the impacts on resources, cost, and schedule. This can happen if the project approaches scope creep as being a bad thing without prioritizing what can be removed to accommodate the scope change. Scope creep can be Pat's nightmare and create a lot of stress if not managed. Bailey the BA can easily and unknowingly create scope creep in conversations with stakeholders. Being aware of this dynamic and working with Pat on these situations is critical. Scope creep can also be a positive thing if managed well between Pat and Bailey. If a stakeholder discussion yields new features that were not previously planned, there needs to be an understanding of the value of the feature in question and the priority of it. If it truly will make or break the value delivered, and it's a top priority, then it should be added to scope. Pat, Bailey, and the business leaders need to have dialogue to make a decision on priorities, risk, budget, and schedule. It could mean de-scoping something else, or increasing the cost, or even increasing the time to fit it in. The important part is that it's managed and leveraged for value, not feared. I've created a scoping checklist for PMs and BAs to use in collaboration with one another. This will help your team plan and manage scope. Remember, collaborate closely and don't be afraid of scope creep. Embrace it and manage it.